I'm reading this correctly, it persisted from 2018 to 2020, so it was a 2-year problem, is that true?
Correct.
Well, the city can't evict anybody. And if you couldn't evict a renter, I mean, that doesn't fall on the city. So, you know, I understand it's not what you desired, but the city's not responsible for that.
Would the penalties fall to the tenant, though, instead of the property owner?
No,
So,
this,
yeah, that's between you and him who ultimately pays it, but everything is yours, it's your building. So that's, the only way we have access to it is through you. So,
Is it common practice to have one service and multiple meters?
It just depends if the owner wants to set it up that way, because a lot of the owners with apartments, they pay the water bill, and so there's only one meter. And that's the way that one was before, they only had one in, and we put 2 in.
Okay. I guess I just don't understand why there would be 2 meters and not a way to shut off
Because
in case of non-payment.
the homeowner just split it up inside instead of outside.
it was included with the rent, apparently.
Correct.
Previous to you, the utilities in some fashion were included with their rent. And that's, you know, so maybe since the time they were built.
I guess I don't know
Yeah, well,
See, I get away with
I,
meter fee, because it costs every month to have a meter, and so they don't want 2 meters in there, because they're paying an extra fee, so.
So the building owner just pays the water and then just charges, includes that in the rent.
right,
Makes sense.
that. I know when I purchased it, it had 2 meters on it.
Yeah.
I have rental property and I know that I bear that responsibility. If I get hung with it, I get hung with it.
For me, this is my first rental property, my first problem I ever had with a tenant. So it's just kind of hard to know the whole scope of everything, you know, when you're just starting into it and you're brand new.
Well, it's always a learning experience. Every renter's different too, so. I mean, this has already been voted on, right? I mean,
As voted on 2022.
okay.
and he's submitted it again, so we have to vote on it again, just because he's made it again.
You're wanting to. You're talking pretty low.
I'll be the bad guy. I mean, I would vote that we not forgive the late fees, and we would stick with the decision that we had previously made in this, sorry, 2022?
February 2022.
I mean, we've stopped the delinquent fees, we haven't added anything new, so that's the motion I would make.
Second.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Osbaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
No.
Schultz.
Yes.
Discussion and possible approval of visitor guide contract with Sigourney News Review.
So last year, we did a half a page at $600. It's went up this year to the $650. It's out of the legal publications and advertising line item, and we have a balance of $8,400 in that line item.
And that was a question from the last council, you know, where are we gonna take it from?
So I make a motion we approve putting an ad in the visitor's guide, a half-page ad, at the price of $650.
Second.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Osbaker,
Yes.
Lentz,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Discussion and possible approval of changing the January 1st council meeting in 2025?
So the first is New Year's Day. I'd like to move it to Thursday, January 2nd.
Any objections?
Make a motion to move the January 1st, 2025 council meeting to January 2nd, 2025. Same, 6 o'clock start time.
Second.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Osbaker,
Yes.
Lights,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Okay, next, Keokuk County Economic Development, KCED report. Gary, you can fill us in, please.
So Friday, we held a strategic planning session here in this room with the various stakeholders that have been assembled for that purpose by KCED. We also had 4 visitors from Des Moines for IEDA. This was in relationship to the Boost grant that you heard about. It was a very productive meeting. We had the opportunity to, I believe, familiarize the Boost representatives with our vision for the county, which tracks with other counties and cities that they have been working with. We've all got the same problems, so it follows that we're all being motivated by the same things. We gave them a tour of the community, all the various sites where we have focus from various stakeholders. For example, we toured the square, which is the primary focus for the city. We went to Legion Park, we went to the flag football fields, the schools, both schools, the hospital, and gave them an overall flavor of the community, the size of the community, where things lay. Excuse me. And we spent the afternoon talking about their impressions of what they had seen, and we discussed various approaches that could be taken for different aspects, and I won't go into all of the details because it was 6 very intense hours. The takeaway is that the Boost team is going to use the time between now and the holidays to write up a report of their understanding, their findings, and their recommendations. They'll deliver that report in January. In the meantime, we have some actions that we are going to consider and potentially bring some recommendations even to this group. For example, one of the things that is germane to the city would be, they made a number of comments about signage. The example was, we were standing on the square, we were talking about the various facade projects, we were looking at the availability of parking. One of the questions that came up is there enough parking available downtown? We all pointed to the parking spaces around the square. They said, is there a city parking lot? I said, yes. Where is it? It's over there. Is there a sign? Oh, no, there's no sign. So the point that they were trying to make, and they did it in a variety of ways throughout the day, is that walkability, information about where various facilities like a city parking lot are would be useful in terms of enhancing the image. Signage out on Highway 92, 149 might be useful for to highlight various facilities or services that we've got. So we're going to study this, and likely we'll come with some recommendations to this group for approval. We have other activities that we'll also engage in that I'll give a more thorough report on when I have time to write it up. I have not had time to write up my notes. The other thing I'd like to mention is, as you're aware, we're working on the child care initiative, have been for the last 2 years. I had the opportunity yesterday to attend the Iowa Women's Conference Summit on Child Care, which was very informative. And in particular, set in on the activities around how to bridge the wage gap for caregivers. The margins for childcare are razor thin, and it's very, very difficult, given income levels and percentage of income that young parents are required to devote to childcare, and what they can devote. And by the way, we're definitely over the percentage of gross income that should be necessary to devote to childcare. It's just not possible to pay the caregivers enough to keep them, to get quality caregivers. So there are a number of initiatives, actually some of which were piloted here in Iowa, that are really gaining some traction. One of them is called the Child Care Solutions Fund, which is essentially a general fund that can be set up within a community or within a county like ourselves, administered by a 501c3. And basically you make the case to the community at large that child care is in everyone's best interest, and work with businesses and individuals to fund this, initially with assistance from the state, but make it sustainable after year one, and use those funds to increase what you can actually pay on a per hour basis to the caregivers, so that you can in fact compete with McDonald's and attract and retain quality teachers. So that was very informative. I'll organize my information and I'll report on that more thoroughly at the appropriate time. The last thing I'd like to mention, in case anyone isn't aware of it, but it was presented at yesterday's board meeting, is Sigourney Junior High School has been recognized by U.S. News and World Report for its performance, its academic performance. 71% of our students scored at or above proficiency level for math, and 79% scored at or above that level for reading. It's also worth mentioning we're graduating about 99% of our students, and I went out and I looked at the metrics for the schools here in Sigourney, and our schools are performing above the state average consistently on every metric. So we're doing very well. I think the school board and the superintendent are doing an outstanding job, and I'm looking forward to seeing that continue to improve. That's all I have.
Thank you, Gary. Park and Recreation, I have nothing listed there. Street and Sanitation, nothing. Water and wastewater, discussion of lead line inventory letter.
So the DNR has told us we have to do a lead line inventory of the town. We've been working on it for, probably a year at least. Basically, they want to know how many lead lines are in this town still. You don't know without digging up, because somebody could have patched stuff together. We went through what we could visibly see in houses we've been in, and we filled out this report, and it went into a system, and it just randomly does a calculation and says, so this many houses have lead lines, going by population and houses. So it picked out, I think, 860 letters that we had to send out to people, which we only had just a few lead lines. So we decided it'd be more informational just to send this letter to everybody in town instead of just picking out those few. It'd be cost-wise, it's not going to cost any more to send the letters than it is to go through and hand-pick each one that we have to. So that's kind of what this is.
So we don't believe that we've got lead in our water to any substantial degree?
No, we test it every year. We've never had a problem. DNR is really cracking down on it, and they're going to continue to. Now, we just got a letter that they are going to want us to possibly dig each service line. So it's a good thing we bought that vac, because that's easiest, less tearing somebody's yard up. But the thing is we can't, so we dig up by the house, we don't know if somebody's patched it back 30 feet, so it's gonna be a tough thing, and they're trying to figure it out, so.
So this inventory isn't necessarily the city's water system?
Yes, it's just the service lines.
From
From
the
the
shut
main-
off?
Yeah,
So that
from the
part
main
that-
to the house,
the part that's the homeowners?
yes.
If you
If we ever come across one, we take it out at our expense, put in new and go on with life. But we've only found, I think, in 19 years, I've only seen 3, so, and I think Bun's only seen 4, so,
So the service line belongs to the homeowner,
from the shut off,
and that's the part that.
the whole thing from
This-
the main all the way to the house. is
But
what
the city
they
would
want.
have to potentially,
Yes. And there's a lot of communities that are, they're just taking the time and they're digging them up and looking, but
Well, this is fallout from what happened in, was it Pennsylvania?
Detroit,
it's not
Some
over
others.
yet. It's gonna, it'll come down to we have to explain ourselves.
If we have to dig,
proof.
if we have to dig, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd take 2 guys a year to do it. So,
Since you're going to be sending this letter out to everyone, are we going to be panicking some of our residents?
oh, I'm sure there'll be calls, but it says in there to give the office a call and one of us will talk to them and explain it.
Okay.
And we've got all our results from, well, the last probably 40 years of lead, so.
And homeowners can test also.
Yeah, they can too.
I saw that
Right.
in the article.
And we do, we'll have a homeowner, we've had them before, call and ask. They have a new infant and they're worried about their line. And we'll give them the information and they can send a little bottle in to the lab and they'll test it for them, so.
when, just out of curiosity, when do we think maybe the last lead pipes were installed? I mean,
I would say early 60s, maybe,
well, up to that point,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's more current than I thought.
yeah, they still were using it.
So for the amateur, galvanized pipe is not lead pipe, right?
No, no. Galvanized is a solid pipe. Lead is, it's bendable. You can, it's pretty tough stuff, really, but
Really?
yeah,
That's a whole different problem.
yeah, it's a, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question? Thank you, Brent. Okay, next item, public safety, I have nothing listed. Finance, nothing listed. Human resources, nothing listed. And last is public input. Is there any public input from the public? Any input from the council? If not, I entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Clark,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Lance, Schultz.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.